Welcome, yogis. I know that some of you are still connecting, but we're going to get started. Today is a interesting day psychologically and intellectually and emotionally and all of the things in my world. And let's see, from the lunar perspective, we've got a waxing moon in the sign of Virgo, and Virgo is the scales, and typically that's a balance place, right? It relates to the kidneys, which in our physical body are our filtration, our discernment, our elimination of that which we don't need, which can be really painful process, right? Not necessarily in the physical body, sometimes that's true, but definitely in the psychological and the emotional realms. The purging can be painful. I didn't draw a specific card for today because I wanted to make more of a personal observation that kidneys are air. Well, kidneys are water, but Libra is air. And right now you may have noticed a lot of fire element environmentally and throughout the collective. And so it's important to remember that air feeds fire, right? And it can dry water. So it's an interesting element to help temper both of those. If we restrict a little airflow from the flame, if we don't burn so hot, we can be in a little bit more control without gripping, right, for control, without fighting for control. From the water standpoint, Libra's shadow side is kind of getting caught up in the flow and losing a sense of self-awareness and self-truth and just moving with a tide. And so I think right now it's really important to observe those aspects in our own personal life world, as well as how we reflect that into the environment right now. So today's practice is going to be slow and deliberate. We will be working with that low and mid back kidney, probably a little leftover belly stuff, that assimilation to elimination, assimilation to elimination. So bear with me as we go. I may not be quite as verbal today, and allow you the space to really breathe into the shapes that we make and offer. There's a hummingbird outside my window. Sorry, a little distracting. So that this could be a really deeply personal practice. If that doesn't serve you, you can activate more and move more and flow in your own body as needed, instead of just holding statically as we may do. So if you have blocks, awesome. If you also have a strap or a belt that you can have within reach, that would be good. If you don't, even a hand towel or a kitchen towel will do the trick for most of us. It may not be necessary, but if it's tough for you to reach the sole of your foot with your hand, then it may come in handy. Okay, so all of that said, we are going to start lying on our backs in a bridge setup. We're going to have a block or proxy for a block. Maybe that's pillows, maybe that's folded blankets, maybe that's a bolster. Handy beside us, make sure that it's within reach, that you can actually reach it with your hand. And then also have your strap handy. And it may help you to already have it in a loop, but it's not totally necessary. Once you're on your back, your knees are bent, your feet are flat on the floor, directly under the knees so that the shin bones are upright. And then let's reach our arms over our head to make our rib cage a little taller. Softening the base of the throat, the base of the skull, rocking head left and right. And then we'll do some pelvic tilting, like pulling the tail toward the back of the heart, feeling the low back start to round and create some space behind and between the earth and the bony body. And then exhale, tucking the tail, pressing the low back down into the earth, gathering the navel deep, and this time shortening that front abdomen. We don't do that a lot in this class, but for now, this is what we're going for. Inhale, activate the low back, creating that subtle back bend shape, and then exhale, reverse, shortening the front body. These are little tiny mini versions of a cow and a cat pose. You can think about it like that. Just orchestrated by the low back muscles and then those front abdominal muscles. Inhaling, back bend. Exhaling, shortened belly, subtle cat pose. Keep the navel really deep, even as you find that rounded back bend shape, inhaling. This time on your exhale, retain that curve and bring the elbows down by your ribs. Don't pull the shoulders down as you do that. Keep them shrugged slightly. The elbows might not touch the ribs. They might be a few inches away. That's okay. I like to point my fingers to the sky. Start to pull the shoulders together behind the heart, lifting the sternum toward the chin slightly. Be here. We're already in a very subtle bridge pose. The tail pulling toward the heart, and then the heart lifting up toward the chin, the back, neck supportive, softening into the breath, even as we're activating into the back spine and core. The organs of our air element, the lungs, try to activate the rib cage to find the breath instead of filling the belly. Inhaling fully. Exhaling long. Make sure your jaw is soft and your feet are grounded. Inhale fully. Press down feet, elbows, shoulders, lift up thighs and heart. The tail comes along for the ride. Keep that same shape in the spine. You can really feel the tail continuing to pull toward the backside of the heart. You shrug your shoulders just a little bit and maybe they walk closer to each other. Arms can be straight or bent here. Keep the elbows heavy either way. Imagine your strap underneath your low back. Let the pelvis get heavy, but then at the same time, lift the thighs. Gather the navel. Soften your jaw. Use that same breath up into the rib cage. Even, full, long. Inhaling, tap the tail down. Don't let the low back touch. Make sure that curve of the spine is intact. And then exhale, lift the thighs and the sternum. Inhale, tap down. Exhale, rise up. Again. Remain high in your bridge pose. Reach for your block or your bolster or your blankets. Slide them under the pelvis, not your low back, and then drop the tail onto the block. Let the pelvis get really heavy, almost push down into the block, even as your heart continues to expand. Roll your palms, if your arms are long, roll your palms to face the sky. Press the thumb into the earth. Feel the back of the heart contract and coil as the collarbones open slightly. Maybe it's more energetic than active. Soften your jaw. Find the breath. Fullness. Even through the back ribs, imagine the breath moving. They can be coiled without being restricted.
Lengthen out just the left leg. Press through the ball of the foot and then lift that foot just a couple feet into the air, maybe only as high as your right thigh. And then on an inhale, tap the heel down. Exhale, lift it up. Try not to change your spine. Inhale, tap down. Exhale, lift it up. One more. Lift. Bend that knee. Cross the ankle over right knee. Let the whole thigh go heavy. Nothing else changes. Your heart is open, actively lifting toward your chin. Shoulders, elbows, thumbs pressing down into the earth. Again, palm faces the sky. On an inhale, straighten out left leg, and then bend the knee, foot to the floor. Make sure your hips width. And then letting the right leg lengthen out. Keep the pelvis pressing into your block. Don't lose that coil of the back body. Inhale, lift the leg, pushing through the ball of the foot. Again, the thigh only comes as high as the left thigh. And then on an inhale, tap. Exhale, rise. Inhale, tap. Exhale, rise. One more. Bend that knee. Roll it open as ankle crosses over left knee. Right thigh gets heavy. Opening that front side of the hip joint. Upper body remains really active. Back body pulling your block toward the back of the heart. But the jaw, the eyes, the ears, they're soft. Release the cross, straighten the leg, and then bring the foot to the earth. On an inhale, gather your belly, activate the back spine. Exhale, rise up. Remove the block from underneath you. Bring just the tail down. Then reach the arms overhead, shrugging shoulders. Pull the kidneys, the back ribs down into the earth. Maybe the low back flattens a little, but it's not tucking the tail. The tail stays a little active, but the ribs pull down. So those upper abdominal muscles, the solar plexus right there in front of the stomach organ, really pulling back to press the lowest ribs to the earth, expanding that space. Breathe into that base rib. Front, back, and sides. Rock out the head. Keep the feet anchored into the earth, the tail pulling subtly, the kidneys pressing down. It's almost like that upper area of the low back is lengthening as it presses toward the earth, even though you're not bottoming out right at the base of the low back. Now soften the belly and the low back, pull the knees toward the rib cage. I like to take them a little wide here. My hip joints are better accommodated that way. Hands can be on the backs of the thighs or on the shins, and rock just the pelvis really slowly back and forth. So we're not rocking on the whole spine. This is a very baby spinal twist. A little extra weight into the left sitting or SI joint, and then into the right. We're not twisting deep. This is a really subtle rocking style rotation. Activate the feet and take your block in between your knees. Now, this is important. You want to make sure that when you grip your block, your knees are all on one line. You're not tipped or tilted so one knee is higher. You really want to keep those together. Okay, arms come out to the side, knees pull in, use those muscles deep in the hip flexor. And then on your exhale, we're not twisting far, but we're going to rock again onto now the right hip, keeping the knees level. Don't let them slide on the block so that they take on an angle. Keep that left knee pulling forward so that the knees still grip the block evenly. On an inhale, come through center. Pull the knees in, and then exhale, rock onto that left hip. Same thing, really efforting the right thigh a little faster so that the knee, the block, and the other knee stay online. Look at them with your eyes, especially the first couple times, and notice the depth of your core that has to work here. This isn't a lazy twist, right? We're really lifting now as we come onto the right side. Exhaling, lifting through that left hip and thigh to push it forward. And then inhale, center, second side, roll onto the left hip, but really effort through that right side. One more time each side. Come again back to center, remove the block, bring the feet down. Walk the feet forward away from the hips a couple inches, then the feet wider than your mat, then drop the knees in toward the midline. Your feet don't have to stay flat on the floor. You might lift the pinky edge side and kind of rest on the inner arch slightly. Let your whole belly go soft. Notice the effort that is now released. Breathe through those muscles, those organs. Okay, now here's where that strap might come in handy. We're going to walk the feet closer to midline. We're going to roll onto our right side. And we're going to pull the knees up toward the belly. So you're in a kind of fetal position here. In the first round, we're going to just keep the knees stacked over one another. That left oblique abdominal section is really active, pulling my base ribs toward my left thigh. My left hand is going to start to reach up for the sky. And I want to keep that bottom rib stable and not moving. Maybe I put my right hand on it to keep it pulling toward my thighs, even as my left shoulder blade and collarbone and upper ribs start to reach open toward the sky. The point here, my friends, is not to reach the earth with your left shoulder. It's to maintain the stability in the low belly, that low side waist, while mobilizing the upper ribs slowly. Using the breath. Shrugging the shoulders slightly so there's a little more room under the collarbone. The shoulder blade might hug toward the spine on the back body. But the navel is spiraling toward the earth. Soften the jaw. Notice your knees as your left knee slid back. Keep the knees stacked actively. Reach for the sky and then come down. Okay. Before we move on to the second side, we're going to straighten the bottom leg. Have your block handy. Straighten the top leg out in front of you. So the left foot comes down along the mat and the right foot comes down along the mat and the top leg, that left leg, stretches out in front of you. So the hips in 90 degrees.
and maybe your ankle rests on a block. Now this is where the strap might come in handy. If you need to wrap the strap around your foot to keep it out there, you can do that and hold it with your right hand. Activate both feet, toes pulling back, ball of foot lengthening and pressing. And again, left hand moves to the sky. The hips are stacked right on top of each other. And then the ribs, same thing. Bottom rib rotates toward the thigh. Top ribs rotate toward the sky. Opening the heart. Reaching through the left fingers, even as the left shoulder blade hugs back in toward the spine. So find that internal tension, those opposing forces. And then move the breath, that water element, air element. Don't lose the effort of those left obliques. Pull the bottom rib toward the left thigh. Roll the navel toward the earth. Then open the sternum toward the sky. Maybe you start to gaze back toward left elbow. Maybe not. What can you maintain? Where can you be without gripping, without fighting? Where can you be honest with yourself? Reach the left hand up and then come back down to the heart. Bend both knees. Release the strap. Curl the knees in. Drop the nose down toward the knees. Round the back body. Go a little slack. Be in your fetal position. Breathe through the back body since the front body is compressed here. And then we switch sides. Take your block and your strap with you, rolling on to left side. Stacking the knees. Left arm might be out in front of your heart. Gathering that right rib cage, right base rib and obliques and navel toward that right thigh as right arm reaches up to the sky. And then the heart very slowly starts to peel open. Offering the upper ribs your breath, the lower ribs your stability. Taking that shoulder blade a little closer to the spine on the back body. Maybe shrugging the shoulder first to make a little room between the collarbone and the ribs. Super stable lower body, active feet. Rolling the navel toward the earth. Anchoring that right side rib toward the thigh, even as the armpit, the sternum, they start to roll open a little further. Find your breath. Feed the process. Can this breath move more like water than air? Again, the point is not to just flop the shoulder down onto the earth. We're really anchoring into the stability of the middle body to mobilize that upper body really slowly, methodically, not trying to burst through limits, but trying to imagine the limits coming to us and then dissolving. Reaching the hand up, rolling the heart back to neutral. Hand down in front of the heart for a moment, just pausing. Taking the bottom leg, left leg long on the mat. And then that
block underneath your ankle. So right hip is at 90 degrees, stacked directly over left hip. If you need the strap around the sole of the foot to hold your right hand steady, please do that. And then inhale, reach the right arm for the sky. Activate both feet. Inhale, gather the navel. Roll the navel toward the earth slightly, keeping that bottom rib anchored toward your right thigh. And then upper ribs start to again rotate open. Maybe you feel your right hip draw down toward your left ankle, lengthening that sideways in top to bottom, even as it shortens in rotation. Keeping it anchored. Feeling the connections all the way from the heart to the belly to the pelvis, out through the ankles. Breath moving like water. Notice your neck. Keep the back neck long. Maybe the gaze moves out toward right shoulder. Keep the ribs rolling toward the thigh at the bottom and then toward the sky at the top. Reach the hand for the sky. Bring it down in front of the heart. Release your strap. Pull both knees into the heart. Nose down toward the knees. Round the back body deep. Balasana. Inhaling through and out the back body. Releasing the balasana, moving back onto the back body. Finding your bridge set up. Shoulders together behind you, feet underneath your ankles, hip width. Inhale, pull the tail back, bending. Exhale, lift the hips, rising. Lengthening from pubic bone to base of throat. Lengthening from pubic bone to kneecaps. Finding the breath. Come back down. Walk the soles of the feet together. Let the thighs open up. Once again, reach the arms overhead. Press the base ribs into the earth. Go soft and heavy with most of the body, but activate the pinky edges of the feet together. Don't just hang limp in the ankles and feet. Connect that pinky edge of the foot actively. Activate the arms, pulling the hands down toward the thighs. Press the thighs back up to midline. Pull the knees toward your heart, narrow or wide, yogi's choice. Round the back body and rock the whole spine this time, massaging side to side. into center. On an inhale, nose up toward knees, round back body. Exhale, start to rock. Maybe hovering on the shoulders, hovering on the hips. And coming to a seat. Make that seat elevated on a bolster or a block. And then take whatever crossed ankle version of the seat feels most comfortable to you. Maybe it's a Sukhasana with your shins crossed out in front, kind of a wide base. Maybe you take the knees wider and stack the heels or line them up in front of the pubic bone, adepts pose, yogi's choice. There's lots of ways in between. Be here for a moment. Letting the pubic bone draw down heavy, the tailbone lifting light and easy. With that curve, gently pull the navel straight back, both the low navel and the upper navel, not pulling those points together, but pulling them straight back through your organs to the spine. Turn your palms up. Lift your collarbones an inch and make them broader. Pull your vocal cords back in space slightly and lift the base of the skull, the roof of the mouth. Soften the tongue and the eyes and the inner ears. Inhale, reach those hands out to the side and overhead. And trace the midline down. All the way past the heart, solar plexus, belly, and roots. Inhale, out and up. Trace the midline, draw down. One more. Bowed down, looking at the roots with open eyes or closed. Fingertips point down through the earth. Keep your heart lifting toward your chin, your tail rising subtly in back, belly supportive. Imagine that subtle shape of bridge pose here. Inhale, both arms out and up. Gaze comes up. Left arm out to the side and down. Fingers are light. Right hip heavy as you lift up, right side. And then left side bend. Keep that left armpit buoyant as you look down. Inhale, stack spine, reaching both arms up. And then right arm out and down, slow, long exhale. Left hip heavy, left side rising. Exhale, right side bend. Keep the right ribs and the right armpit lifting up underneath you. No collapse, but we look down. Inhale, rising up. Exhale, twisting to the left. Elbows soften out to shoulder height. Look back toward left armpit, left elbow. Inhale, center. Keeping the navel aligned over your pubic bone, just the sternum, the ribs, and then the gaze. Again, reaching center. Left arm out and down. Right side lengthens, inhale. Exhale, side bend, look down. Inhale, reach up, stack spine. Second side, right arm out.
Left side lengthens, inhale. Long exhale, right side bend. Inhale, stack spine, both arms up. Elbows soften out, left twist. Belly firm. Inhale, center. Right twist, slow, long, deliberate exhale. Inhale, center. Palms touch, come down midline, heart, anchor. Pause in your upright axis, but not in your breath. Feel your low back and your belly. Feel your low ribs, your upper ribs. Feel the space between your inner ears and behind your eyes. Release your hands. Come off of your high elevation, your bolster or your block, and then rearrange a blanket so that it is folded high enough to give a substantial wedge, but not as high as a block would be. As you do that, allow the pelvis to sit up onto it and then shimmy the sitting bones all the way to the very front edge. They will actually fall off and down, lifting the tailbone behind you subtly. Your feet start off at hips width, and you pull your toes back and push forward through the ball of your foot. And then anchor the back of the heel, that Achilles tendon attachment, push it down through the earth and very subtly pull it back toward your hips, and notice what happens in your pelvis and your spine. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's incredibly powerful and supportive. Allowing your breath to flow like water. Your tail to rise, your solar plexus to gather, your collarbones to broaden, that roof of the mouth, base of the skull, connection upward, reach straight up. Soften the jaw, bobble the head on top of the neck bones. It does not need to be heavy or tense. Exhale, drop the hands down without pulling shoulders. Fingertips or palms might reach the earth, but we're not reaching to try to anchor. Be light. Find the breath. Bend your left knee. Foot comes in line with right knee as left knee tips out. Now let the front of the ankle go a little soft so that the top of the foot can kind of roll to the earth slightly. We want that freedom as we prepare to fold forward. Press down through the fingertips slightly to lift the tail and drop the pubic bone. Soften the base of the neck. The spine stays neutral as we hinge in the hip joints. You'll feel yourself kind of teeter forward on the sitting bones as the tail gets a little lighter behind you. Imagine the lengthening of the sternum forward to meet outside that left ankle. We're not coming down and into it. We're reaching out past it. Your navel is in line with your pubic bone, not over your right thigh. Stay centered here. You'll feel a lot of activity coiling at the kidney level, the base of the ribs, so that you don't let the front ribs collapse down. Back neck long. Breath smooth and even. Hands come forward under shoulders. Press the heart back up. Switching sides. Left ankle out, a little wider than hips width perhaps, as right knee bends and folds out. Make sure that you're still level on your blankets. If you've done any shifting, rearrange. Activate that left foot. Let the right foot kind of tip onto the top of the foot slightly. Navel, heart, crown, one line. Fingertips press slightly, tail gets a little lighter, and then we begin to hinge. This side might be different. Move slow. Be deliberate. Spine is neutral. Action happening very slowly. Millimeter by millimeter, deep in the hip creases. The crease in the front, getting a little smaller. The hamstrings and glutes on the back, subtly opening up. Hands come underneath shoulders, pressing up. Lengthen out right leg. Bend the left knee. And then take the right foot out to the side slightly. Don't take it as wide as it can go. It might only move a couple inches in your case. Let that be. Then allow the left heel to come a little closer to the pelvis. Be there, rearranging the tailbone on the blanket so that you feel supported. Lifting up through tail, gathering through solar plexus, lightness in the chest, active right foot. Just be upright for a moment. And then when you're ready, right hand comes back wide of your hip. Left hand starts to reach across the belly, the fingernails, the tops of the hand reaching over the thigh. We're not coming toward the thigh though. Try to stay on your axis. Solar plexus pulling in, heart stacked over your pelvis, then maybe your gaze over right shoulder. Imagine breathing through your back body here instead of your belly. This might look on the outside like a stretch, but we can feel on the inside that this is deeply activating. Using our solar fire, but really in a controlled and tempered way. Using the breath to keep us moving internally. Moving through restrictions with grace, not belligerence. Turn the gaze first, inhaling. Exhale, unwind the spine. Left hand behind and wide of right hip. Left hip. And then bringing the right hand across. Keeping the heart upright. reversing the twist. Don't let your right hip get heavy here. Try to stay balanced in the pelvis. Gathering the navel, moving through the upper ribs and the neck spine more than through the lumbar, low belly, navel spine. And then as you're ready, remain in this twist, but take your right hand over to the inner right knee, thigh, or calf. And then very gently start to hinge in your right hip. Keep your heart open. This is not a distinct side bend yet. Try to move your right bottom ribs out toward your right knee. That lifting of the right armpit. Hand beginning to slide farther out toward right ankle. Gaze can change if your neck gets a little tense or fatigued. Turn it left and right. You can stay here or you can turn the left palm to the sky and reach up. Getting a little lighter first and then getting longer. Maybe left hand reaches past left ear. Left hip stays pretty heavy here. And now this can start to turn into a side bend. Keeping the heart rolled open instead of letting it cascade toward the earth. We're not cranking our right arm against our ankle, but we are giving it a little resistance, a little brace, and a lot of breath. Imagine pressing your left ribs back in space, but rolling your left shoulder blade forward around the ribs. So pinky faces the earth. Breathe through the sideways, looking down, looking up. When you're ready, on an inhale, take the left hand to the sky and then sweep it down and turn the heart toward the right thigh. We're going to feel this deep in the left low back and kidney. Don't force it. Go to where it's natural. Long back neck. And then sweeping that left hand out to the left. Taking the heart to the center. Pubic bone, navel, heart, crown. One long straight line in between your thighs. Notice the right hip wants to get light here. Can you keep both really rooted? Length is the object over getting low. Walk the hands in underneath your shoulders. Press the heart back up, walking in. Be upright for at least one breath. Lift the left knee, extend the left leg out in front. Draw the right leg back to neutral and pause. You're incredibly asymmetrical at the moment, but live there, be there. Symmetry is much more rare than asymmetry, so recognize this place. And when you're ready, bending right knee out to the side. Then move the left leg out. Then tuck the right heel a little closer to the pelvis, rolling onto the top of the foot, allowing that ankle to be long. Reset so you're neutral on your blanket, both sitting bones level. Activate left foot, be upright. You're ready. Left hand comes back wide of the hip. Right hand crosses the belly. Fingernails, back of hand, coming across the thigh, really light. keeping the navel as centered as possible while the ribs begin to twist. And then the gaze, moving out over left shoulder. And again, perhaps letting the breath move through the back body instead of the front body. Don't lose awareness in the left foot. The hips, as well as the heart breath.